Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Best Foot Forward. I'm Annie, the walk and talk therapist, and I'm here with Beth from Confidence Education. So we said this time, Beth, that we thought it would be helpful to talk about some tips and techniques for acing the exams because they're closer now, in terms of the build up to the exam, how to handle that, what it might feel like, but also during the exam, almost that sort of, I think you called it performance anxiety.
Yes.
Last time. So that's the aim of our episode today. We're actually going for a different walk today. I've got a cup of tea in my hand. We're on our way up to a bench to sit here, and Beth tells me it's a great view. So I've got high expectation with that. So I think first of all, I think it's just comfortable to say that exams or tests, they're just not a nice part of life for anybody. So we're not about to gloss it and cover it and say it's easy and everybody can do it. They're just not a nice part of life, and tests come in different forms as we grow up or go through life, whether they start as the basic spelling test and they go through to SATs and GCSEs or A-levels maybe, but even job interviews feel like a type of test, and just life events feel like a test as well. So there may be things that cover all spectrums, but we do want to focus on what's happening now in their academic system. So I think it's a good thing to start with to talk about, I'll just navigate my way around, that a little bit of nervousness is okay, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is something that's really kind of close to my heart, as I really struggled with the exams and tests at school.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today is something that I have experienced myself. And so I guess what we're trying to do is help to give you tips to be able to kind of navigate it in more of a calm manner, certainly than I was when I took my GCSEs and A-levels. So this is really important, and we're hoping it's going to help you just feel calmer going into the exams. And if you feel calmer, then that helps your performance.
Definitely. And a little bit of nervousness is good.
Yep.
If I was to use my hand as a sort of sliding scale, we've got good nervous. This keeps me alert, helps me focus. It sort of makes me focus in on the paper. This is good nervous, but it can tip over and then we're unhelpful nervous. And that's the bit that we'd like to sort of focus on. So if you are feeling any feelings, and typically in our body, they might sit in the tummy areas of the butterflies, or maybe if they're more extreme, maybe a bit nauseous, but that's okay. Don't push it away. Your body's saying, okay, we're ready for this. We're going to go into it. But there is a certain point where it becomes more unhelpful, I suppose.
So for me, I can say several times when I was younger, I had real kind of mental block, and for me it was like a black curtain had come down over
crikey.
my thought process. And a particular example of that was when I was performing in front of an audience, and I was playing an exam piece which I had played hundreds of times, and I got up to perform and the piano accompaniment went in, and I suddenly just couldn't play that piece of music.
No, but you know you could.
But I knew I could because I'd already performed it for an exam. And it was very confusing at the time and very embarrassing, and people just kind of sort of stared at me.
Oh.
So that was a very public moment when it happened. And it also happened during my chemistry A-level exam. I had, again, this sort of mental block. It felt like my mind had gone blank, and I felt a lot of panic in that moment. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about is some tips, techniques to help overcome those feelings, because actually I did know it. Certainly the grade piece, I could play it without the music.
Oh wow.
So if I'd have known some of the things we're going to talk about today, that would have really helped me in that situation.
And you can tell it's made an impression on you.
Oh yes, it's
not that you're old, obviously. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that many years after, it still sits with you, and it's
an uncomfortable feeling.
It's the feeling
back.
That sits, yeah, of course. So maybe we should start with thinking what would be helpful the night before or the couple of days before, and I think just getting everything ready is quite useful in terms of what you need for that particular exam as in the kit. You know, you might need a specific, if it's maths, for example, you might need a specific set of kit for that, calculators and so on.
Checking your see-through pencil case.
Of
Always
course.
important.
That's still a thing.
It is absolutely
That's still a
yes.
thing. Yeah, pencil case is correct. Even to the detail of planning the route or the person that's going to take you. Do they know what time they need to leave? Do they need a bit of a reminder of what time you're going to leave the house, to make sure you've got plenty of time to get there? Because nothing really catalysts or catapults anxiety like being late and being in a fluster and a flap. So I would say that's a really quick win, which is laying maybe everything out, having a chat to whoever's driving you, or if you're going yourself, getting the buses sorted, and making sure. I think that's a quick one.
Yes.
To do that one. And I'll be interested to know your opinion, but I would also discourage last minute cramming the night before.
Yes.
Would that sit right with how you would talk to your tutees?
Yes, there are always students that last minute cram, but in all of my conversations about how to prepare for exams, I say little and often beforehand rather than
cramming.
Last minute. Some people, there are the odd few that this works for, and that's absolutely fine, but actually the majority of students that I work with find it really stressful, because a lot of people need repetition, and you can't have repetition when you're last minute planning.
No.
Cramming.
Yes.
It's the opposite of planning.
Cramming.
And it actually can increase your levels of feelings of anxiety, particularly if, and we're going to talk about this in a moment, particularly if you're then surrounded by people who have been more prepared. And if you do start comparing yourself to that situation, actually that can not help things as well.
But also last minute cramming, what if you find something that you didn't know?
Yes.
And then panic stations of, crikey, I didn't know that chapter, or I need to, I'll go into a spin. So at that point in the day, the night before, I think that could be overwhelming to do a long stint of cramming. So, you can feel unprepared if you did that. So if you were to focus just on being calm and sticking with the stuff that you have, as you say, repetition, and it's concreted and it's firmly in your mind, whatever else is out there, let that go in the night before. I would say dial the stress down a little bit. So yeah, getting everything prepared, avoiding last minute cramming. What about having a reward, something lined up for after the exam? Maybe going out with friends, hanging out, going for a drink, or going for a walk or something. It's just it's important to switch off, because the adrenaline would be pumping through your body through that exam. It's important to recharge, because inevitably there's going to be another exam. There's a lot, aren't there? Yes.
So, and this is linked to what we've been talking about in terms of balance and making sure you look after yourself alongside tackling this high pressure part of your life that's going to be happening very soon.
Yeah, it's probably undoubtedly the biggest first chapter of pressure, that, as in a period of weeks, that a young adult would have or experience. So I think they're important. If we can prepare as best we can avoid last minute cramming and set ourselves up something nice, a treat, whatever that might be, and it's different for everybody afterwards. That's a good way to spend the night before the actual exam. Is there anything that you would add, or something that you think, I wish I'd have done that maybe when?
I think this is kind of to do with revision technique.
Okay.
And I always talk about kind of long-term revision strategy. I don't like the word strategy. I'm going to change that. Long-term revision techniques. So you've got your note making, and you can condense those down. By the time you are sitting your exam, your revision materials should be, or could be, at the smallest kind of condensed point that they can be. So we're talking flashcards, we're talking a timeline, we're talking lists of quotes.
Like bullet points.
It's the need to know before you go in there.
Yes.
Because if you've got your notes and you've kind of gone over those several times and condensed down, actually the understanding of the bigger picture will be there. So for me, it was always dates when I was doing history. So flashcards with dates and events on the back, and very little else, to be fair. Those would be the last things I'd be looking at before the exam.
So they're prompts.
Prompts, that's exactly it, yes. Rather than full-on notes.
Word by word, so prompts. And this is where things personal can come in, like colours. So colour codes, highlighting. But at this point in the day, when we're the night before the exam, We don't want to be uncovering a new thing.
Exactly.
That puts us into a spin. So, so if we were to walk this through, and it's the morning now of the exam, but we're fine. We've had a good night's sleep because we've prepared. We know who's taking us in. We've got all our pencil cases, as you say, etc. out. I've lined something up for afterwards, so I know what I'm going to do after the exam. That's all in place. I haven't done any cramming. I've had a great night's sleep. So now I wake up and it's the morning. Do we need a breakfast of champions? We do.
Yes.
We need a breakfast of champions. And I'm not even going to talk about all the different varieties of breakfast, but nothing sugary, nothing that, creates a stimulant for our bodies to sort of crave more or spike highs and lows. So a good breakfast, your eggs, your oats, etc. So if I'm getting into the exam now, what should I or should I not be talking to my fellow students in the queue?
Well, this is an interesting one because I talk to lots of students who prepare for exams in different ways before they go into the exam hall.
Okay.
I know for some, they want to talk about what they know, and it's to kind of reassure them that they know it, but also to compare with other students, and actually they get quite a bit of a buzz talking through what they're going to be answering in the exam.
Yes.
But for some students, that is the absolute opposite of what they want to do.
Or need.
They want to, or need. Mm-hmm. They want to go in quietly with their own thoughts.
Yeah.
And obviously, you can't take music and earphones into the exam hall with you. That isn't allowed, because actually, the tactic outside of exam time is to listen to music or be able to kind of focus on yourself. So I think for me, this is about respecting what other people need, and finding kindred spirits that want to do the same thing before the exam.
Yeah, and you're being self-aware. So if I know I'm someone that doesn't need to hear other people's chatter, maybe I hold back in the queue, or I stand a bit apart from the noise.
Yeah.
That could be the way forward.
I think that's a really good tip. Yeah.
So it kind of presents itself differently in our body, this exam anxiety, performance anxiety. I like your word for that because it can feel like a performance. Physically, we could feel it in various parts of our body. I've already sort of suggested the butterflies and, borderline excitement butterflies. They're a bit tricky, they are, because we can feel excited and feel very nervous, but it all sits in the tummy area of having butterflies, or nausea, dry mouth, maybe going to the toilet more than you normally would. It's your body saying, you're prepared to do something out of the ordinary. But emotionally, though, we can get a bit snappy if we're stressed, or we might be quieter than normal. Either way, we're in a different state. But I would encourage people to remember that this is for a period of time. You might be out of character, but you'll be okay.
Yes, and I think we've been talking about this in terms of a lot of these are normal feelings for this kind of situation.
Yeah, nothing wrong with you.
Exactly. It's just working out the best way to negotiate this time for you.
Yes.
So there are some tips that we're giving that are generic, and actually they would help the vast majority of people. There are also some tips that you can pick and choose depending on how you would react to that situation.
Yeah. And when we're in there, so now I'm sort of fast forwarding visually to, I've gone from the queue into the exam hall. I've now gone and I'm sitting at the table and chair. Sorry, sitting at the table on the chair. Yeah, my mouth runs way too fast. There are kind of 3 reasons I think that people should be aware of in terms of what could affect how they feel at this point. So if they have a fear of failure, and we spoke about this on episode 1 of, is this my worth? However I do is a measure of what I'm worth as a person. Am I good enough? If that is a really strong driver for you of, I cannot fail at this, I've been told I cannot fail at this, or it's conditional that I get these grades because it means I can go on to something else. If that is really loud while you're sitting there at that table, that's something to really try and dial it down, push it to the side. The second of the 3 is, if you've got a poor test history, you might be reminding yourself of, oh, I didn't do very well after the last exam, or I didn't feel very great. This is probably going to be the same. Challenge yourself. Say, that's not right.
This is something that I experience quite a lot with students that are resitting.
Oh, well, that makes sense, yeah.
unfortunately, because they're told you need your 4 to pass, if they've got a 3, they feel like they have failed. And so a lot of the work that I do is build in the confidence of those students to know what they can do and to build on it, rather than going, well, I just can't do it because I didn't do it last time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to overcome those feelings. But it is absolutely possible. And each time you do this, it's a new day. It's a different exam. If you have prepared and you're in a good frame of mind and you know looking after yourself as best as you can, then yes, this is a new chance.
Yeah, it's never exactly the same.
Exactly.
It's never exactly the same. Thank you. I think that's a really good point about resits. I hadn't thought about that. And then the third reason, I suppose, in terms of when I'm sitting at the chair, is having a sense of unpreparedness. So if I feel, just to recap, if I'm feeling I'm going to fail, if I fail at this, it determines the rest of my life. It doesn't. Secondly, my poor test history shows me that I'm not very good. Shut that one off, put it in a box. That's not helpful. And the third one is having a sense of unpreparedness. At that point, finding what bits you have prepared is worth focusing on, not reminding yourselves of the bits you haven't prepared. So.
And this comes down to exam technique. So few very simple things to remember in the exam, because once you're in that exam, you are in control of how you answer it. So the first thing, which is really important and sounds very obvious, but
we like obvious, obvious and simple, please.
Is strengths first. Have a look at that exam paper. Do what you know and you feel most comfortable and confident with first. You do not have to do an exam in a certain order.
No, it's true.
So if the 16 marker is on a topic you absolutely know inside out, but it's question 4, do that first. Remind yourself of what you know. And then go back to the ones that you find more difficult. It's
a good calming technique to do.
It really is. It's kind of keying you into that exam and reminding you of what you can do.
And I'm glad you said that, because I would always do the easier ones first, or multiple choice. And that's back in the olden days. So I'm glad that's still around, because it would just, looking at something and staring at it thinking I don't know the answer. This was my dreaded question, and look, it's question 1. That's really not a good place. But you're right, I am in control of the exam.
So I have a little analogy about that.
Okay.
I was supporting a student who had dyslexia and slower processing speed. And we were trying to work out what exam access arrangements would be good for this student. And he sat and he stared at a 4-mark question for 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it was because he didn't know the answer. And I think he was hoping that it would come to him from somewhere. And in the end, I kind of leant over and said, why don't you move on to the 8-mark question that was next that he did know the answer to? And actually that 7 minutes, I hate to say it, but it was wasted time. He may have been able to go back and answer it later once it kind of warmed up and remembered things. But actually, if it had gone, do you know what, I'm not sure about this one at the moment, I'm going to try the next question because I do know more about that. That would have been an extra probably 6 minutes of being able to answer the longer question that has more marks attached to it. So that's really important. Strengths first, and not lingering on the things that you're not as confident about to start off with. You can also cover up the questions that you are not tackling at the moment. So your brain isn't overwhelmed with the amount of questions on the page. It's really simple, particularly with subjects like maths, where you might have a lot of questions on the same page. It can look really scary. And actually, covering some up, focusing on the one that you need to focus on at that time, it relaxes you a little bit.
Like making a tunnel out of it. Tunnel vision.
And also with longer answers, plan before you write. So this is a good point. If you're not sure how to plan an answer, make sure you ask your teacher. They should be able to support you to be able to do that.
You mean structure?
Plan what you're going to write first, then write it. Because you're getting the ideas out on the page. So I'm thinking things like your creative writing in English, which is long
Yes.
and a lot of marks are attached to that. Really think before you write. And then you're able to think about the structure, the order in which you're going to write about things, the different language and techniques you're going to use, and then put pen to paper and start writing. Because sometimes, if you don't think before you write, you can get halfway through a paragraph and go, where am I going next? Whereas if you've planned first,
so
then you know where you're going.
I can imagine with my visual brain that you decant all the ideas for that answer.
Yes.
And you get scrap paper, right?
And you can do it on the exam paper, or there are places to do that.
So you decant everything that comes to your mind to answer that question, but not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, take some time to put it like the jigsaw together.
Yes.
That's the beginning, that's the middle, that's the end.
So an example is for me and dates. With
dates.
Going back to my dates. Yes, struggled with these all through my degree. So I would write down the dates that I knew about whatever it was I was being asked before anything else. It's a bit like Dumbledore's pensive. You're taking those ideas out of your head, putting them on paper, so then I didn't have to worry about remembering them anymore.
Yeah,
they were already there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Let's put it on the page.
Yeah.
Good idea. Good idea. What about when you're in there, those, and I've sort of alluded to it before about the call it self-narrative, the self-script. We talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else when we're sitting in there. Those negative thoughts of opening it, I can just imagine it myself. Question 1, and I say to myself, oh God, this is the one I absolutely dreaded. I can't do it. Trying to catch yourself first of all and say, actually, I'm not going to say I can't do this and I can't believe this was the first question. We could reword that to say, this isn't the best one I wanted, but I know I've worked on it with Beth or whoever, maybe you've helped me. So I'm going to go and look at some other ones and come back to it. So rather than I can't do it and freezing, just acknowledge, crikey, that's not ideal, but it's okay. I've done some work for it.
Absolutely. And if you're going into these exams after 2 years of work.
I know, it's a long time.
Yeah, it is. So we understand that it's a really big deal, and hopefully by mixing up the order and going with your strengths first, it will help to build your confidence sitting in that exam hall.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Oh, and there's the perfectionist trap as well of thinking I need to do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
And to get 100% is really quite rare. It's okay to just get everything that you know out and don't worry about being absolutely perfect. Be perfect for you, but not be perfect at 100%. That's just a personal thing that I think of. A thought's just come to me, and I probably should have said it before, but we can jump about. Is the day before, we talk about sleep and preparing, etc., and so on. I suppose, and of the morning, really trying to reduce any stimulant drinks or coffee or Monster drinks or Red Bull or any other products are available, I think I'm supposed to say at that point. And the real scientific reason is they do make your heart race because they are full of caffeine. And I totally understand the logic why people find them helpful. However, on an exam day, your race will be already probably higher than normal. It would be unhelpful to have that and could cause extra stress when you just don't need it. So I just thought I'd put that in there because I just remembered about how we breathe when we're in our room, in the exam room. Do you talk about breathing with students or not?
Sometimes, yes, but probably not enough, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it can be a nice technique to do a couple of deep breaths in between each question.
Yeah.
In the sense of a small reset. So I've done the first question, and if you breathe in for 5 seconds and hold for 2 and exhale slowly, I don't think that impinges too much on exam time.
Yeah.
So if you were to breathe in, I'll do it now, for 5 seconds, breathing in. Hold it for 2. And then I'll look at my next question. Just in terms of regularity, because sometimes you can come out of an exam and go, oh, I haven't breathed the whole time. I didn't realise I was holding my breath for the whole time. You obviously weren't holding your breath, but it would have felt your shallow breathing, which would not be great. So I invite people to try things, and if it works for the first exam, maybe try it, or if it worked for the mocks, keep trying it through. But just to have one deep breath in between each question is good. Or starting to feel that flutter, that panic feeling, take charge, and let's do some deep breathing. Oxygen in your blood tells your brain that to relax.
Yeah.
Again, with the science involved.
And this is linked to what we were saying about that first question.
Mm-hmm.
If that worries you,
yes.
Someone else told me a great phrase: "If in doubt, breathe out."
Oh, I quite like that. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
So, have a deep breath. You breathe out.
Yes, if in doubt, breathe out. I like that. Might
Go
get a
on and
T-shirt
chuckle it.
made
Yeah.
with that.
Okay.
And I know we're having a joke now. It is a big deal, and
Yes.
we're not at all minimising the seriousness of how it feels. I would add to it, certainly as we draw to a close, really, that to get some perspective of, in 5 years' time, 3 years' time, this will not be a concern. Regardless of the outcome, things will be okay for you in your life. There will be options.
Yes.
Your whole entire identity does not rest on that one exam.
Yes.
Let's just get some perspective of breathe out.
Yes. Absolutely. On that note.
Oh, yes. I think there's a lot of stuff we covered there. I hope that's helpful.
Yes.
I hope that's helpful for some tips and techniques.
Key takeaways?
Key takeaway would be, I can guarantee nobody else, you're not the only person that feels like this. So share with somebody, talk to somebody else and say, "This, I'm feeling really stressed about tomorrow." Just see what ideas they have. I think that's an important takeaway. And prepare.
Yeah.
Students have been doing that for months now, but the preparation the night before and on the morning is just as important.
Yes.
So I would say that.
And for me, key takeaway, strengths first.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Build your confidence.
Yeah,
show them what you know
yes.
in that exam.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. I like that one.
And so I suppose for us, it's good luck.
Most definitely. Good luck. Absolutely.
Hope this goes well.
Hope it all goes well. I just wanted to say the next episode 4, we're going to look at the well-being after exams. So because it's a chunk of time, we're talking probably 6, 7, 8 weeks of hard graft, of exam and then rest, exam and then rest, exam and then rest. That's quite a relentless conveyor belt. So we'll just do a short episode on your well-being after the exams this summertime, and then we might move a bit off piste from exams. We've done a bit exam heavy, haven't we? We'll look at social media and its impact, have a look at conditions that we put on ourselves that make us worthy or not worthy, and how harmful they could be. And so we'll widen the scope, I think is what I'm saying. But
absolutely,
our next one feels we should bring exams to a close. But thank you, Beth.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.